Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of The Update. This episode, we're going to take a look back at the last school year and all the great things that we accomplished, and then we're going to take a look forward to some of the wonderful things that are coming up for our school system. So stay tuned. Hello everyone, I'm Evan Horton. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this episode of The Update. And for this episode, we're joined by Coweta County School System Public Information Officer Dean Jackson to talk about the year past and look ahead to the year forward. And Dean, we're going to flip the script a little bit today.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to ask me the question.
I am. It's been a busy year.
Yeah.
We're at the time of summer where you can kind of pull your head up a little bit, right?
That's right. That's right.
It will take a little bit. I think maybe it'd be good to take an assessment of the past year.
Yeah, I walked in the studio earlier and somebody said, "How's your summer?" And I said, "What summer?"
What summer? Yeah. I hate to give that disappointing answer to folks.
You're rocking right along.
To my kids particularly.
That's right. That's right.
Well, yes, I think that would be a good thing. It's a good point of the year, you know, that already and really for some time now the school system and school board have been looking ahead. Let's take a look at the year past before we talk a little bit about some of those things coming up.
Sounds good.
So I'm going to ask you a few things. Now, it makes sense to start at the beginning. I actually want to start in the middle for just a moment. January 2023, it's exactly halfway through the school year, and it's been a very busy school year. And of course, a great deal of what you do and where the vision and direction of the school system starts from is our Board of Education. January 2023 had the midst of a lot of things going on in the school system. You had a change in the board. You had a new board member join. 2 years, Chairman Beth Barnett stepped down, which is the custom of the board, Andrew Copeland. New board chair, new board vice chair, Buzz Glover. So I guess what I want to say is, middle of the year, a lot going on. You basically, in a lot of ways, have a new board. And what I've seen from this board and past boards, there's always this very intentional effort to maintain a continuity of vision and a continuity of action.
Absolutely. You know, the board takes great pride in making sure that there's stability throughout the school system, and that can show itself in a variety of ways. Strategic planning is one. Succession planning is another. Of course, you can see it's evident, you know, throughout our budgeting process, which really runs from January until June, the end of June. So, so there are a lot of things going on, and a lot of things, you know, behind the scenes that go on that lend themselves to that stability. But you mentioned Chairman Barnett. She did a great job as chairman for 2 years with a rookie superintendent, and then of course Chairman Copeland coming on. He and Vice Chairman Glover. Yep. They are, you know, they're visionaries for public education. They're staunch supporters of public education, and we all work very well together to make sure that we're able to maintain the standard of excellence that's been established for us long before in the school system. And there's always that keen eye toward doing just that.
And very invested in the school system, both as former students, people who have family in there, people who had children in there. They're very invested in the school. So I see that very consistently on the board.
Absolutely.
So, well, and I said that, you know, that happened in the middle of a busy school year. Let's look back. Start at the beginning, talk a little bit about that. And one of the things opening in August of 2022, one of the very first things looking at was growth in the system. Now, we've had growth, you know, consistent in the system, but really for the past decade, very incremental, sometimes 50, 100, almost flat, you know, some years. But still some incremental growth till we got to this year. And then once again, we're seeing several hundred students taking us over that 23,000 level, seeing real growth.
Yeah, we have. You know, it's no longer incremental. It's like you said, it's in the hundreds a year. And this past year, we did creep back above that 23,000 mark. You know, that number kind of does this throughout the year with students moving in, students moving out. But we have seen growth. There are some pockets that we're really tracking related to growth. One of those is the Moreland corridor, that service area down there. Moreland is really growing, and we're going to have to continue to monitor that one. Of course, we did some high school redistricting over the last couple of years to alleviate some overcrowding at East Coweta and add a few more students to Northgate. With the Noonan High rebuild, there's going to be room to grow there. And then right now, all of our middle schools are actually right at or below capacity. So we have some room to be able to grow in our middle schools over the next few years. But that Moreland corridor is one to watch. And of course, we're still watching the East Side corridor a little bit as well.
And in fact, you know, you get a feel for this just being in the school system and just working with principals and staff throughout the year. But just for that added level of detail, also brought in education planners to really take a look at growth again.
Yeah, every couple of years we'll bring in, you know, an outside group to do their own independent, you know, analysis of our growth trends. Student enrollment is something that we track to the day in the school system, to the day, to the week, to the month. We can give, you know, year-over-year comparisons about where enrollment stands now as opposed to a year ago or 5 years ago. So we're tracking that constantly. I will tell you that it is something that is very hard to pinpoint. You know, they don't come in packs of 30s, and you know, people move to different areas and move in and out. So we do a lot of our due diligence though to make sure that we're tracking where the student enrollment is, and that, you know, we're not running out to build something unless we need it.
Right.
It's very important because we have to make sure that we're being as responsible as we can be with the money that we're entrusted. So a lot of homework goes into that.
So as a result of that planning, going back to the beginning of the year, you had the conclusion of a big project, huge project, which was a complete renovation of Northgate High School, in addition of a new classroom wing. That was accepting, to a certain extent, that redistricting you're talking about between East Coweta.
That's right, about 500 students from East Coweta to Northgate once the grandfathering and stuff is finished. You know, Northgate is beautiful. I laugh every time I go in there, man. It looks like a high school now.
It does.
They've widened those hallways and widened that cafeteria, and we've added that classroom addition. So they're really primed and ready for any additional students that they will see. The Noonan High rebuild, which I know we'll get to here shortly, it is rocking and rolling right along. So we're in a pretty good place with our facilities right now.
I'm glad you brought it up. I wanted to make that juxtaposition. We finished one big project, Northgate High School, about the same time. In fact, a year ago, basically today. Started with a clean slate at those building sites within the LaGrange Street campus. A lot has happened since that clean slate was set.
Yeah, I was actually over there this morning. It's hard to believe, you know, in really about 12 short months, we've gone from, you know, tearing down the older buildings on campus to now the new gym. It's slated to be completed here in about another month and a half. And the academic building steel is up and block is going in, and you can see that begin to come out of the ground, and you know, it represents great opportunity for our school system, for our students, and I'm excited to see what benefits that school will bring to our students over the course of the next several generations. And
absolutely.
That's how, you know, it's how we went about planning the rebuild over there. If we were going to do it, you know, I knew that it was going to be something that people were going to look back 75, 100 years from now, and they were going to judge us on how we did. So we hope that the new Noonan High School is going to be something that the community can be very proud of, and that it's going to serve generations of students and serve them very well.
It's a good way to put it, because, you know, it is generational. It's a response to a disaster on the one hand. It's taking, you know, 2.5 years to have that full response. But it's also the single largest project the school system's ever undertaken, and like you said, is going to impact Coweta for generations.
Generations. And, you know, there's a point in the aftermath of the tornado where even for me it was like, okay, we're doing this, so now let's make sure that if we're going to do it, that we do it well, that we do it right, and that you don't make short-term knee-jerk decisions just because, you know, your school's been destroyed by a tornado. You make very strategic decisions for the long-term benefit of our students. And I think we've done that. It's going to be beautiful. I'm excited about it. I'm excited about the progress that I've seen. In spite of all the raindrops, but we're in a really good place, and I'm excited for the students and the staff and the community. Quite frankly, they're now able to see the opportunity. They're able to see those buildings coming out of the ground, and there's a light per se at the end of a very long tunnel, and I'm excited for that.
And for that glimpse ahead, you mentioned one part of it, and that is the much smaller portion of this project, which is the gym, the expansion of Max Bass Athletics. That's we're really going to get into the new school year here, August 2023, August and September and on, and see the opening of that for use. That main building still coming in 2024. And I have to mention, it's also going to be a larger classroom facility.
Yes.
Going to bring capacity up to about 2,800 for Noonan High School. So that means Noonan High School is going to have room to grow, just like we've left East Coweta and Northgate with some
That's
room.
right. There'll be room to grow there. And the other thing that it will do, you know, we're going from, what, 12 or 13 buildings to I think now they're going to be 5 on that campus.
Huge. That's going to be a sea change on that campus.
Man, much more functional facility, much safer facility.
Yeah.
When you look at the things that we're, you know, that we have to consider now in the area of safety. So being able to get that footprint, not decrease the footprint, but decrease the number of buildings makes it much more functional for the things that we want to try to do on a daily basis. You know, Dean, one thing people ask me a lot, so why'd you do the athletic facility first? It was simply just a matter of scheduling and moving dirt.
That's right.
The dirt had to come out.
And the scale of the project.
And the scale of it. The dirt had to come out. It had to have another place to go.
Right.
And that is, it was pure construction.
Right.
If we could have done the academic buildings first, we certainly would have. We just couldn't.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, let's shift gears. We've been talking about bricks and mortar and dirt and rocks. Let's talk a little bit about teaching in the classroom. I've had a good year academically. Just want to talk, and you don't have to take it in this direction, but just mention some of those academic indicators. Grad rate back up over 90%. And I'm looking back to the fall and those stats that came in really from the year before. Back up over 90%. SAT, we're a good, 20 points above the state, almost 50 points, 40 to 50 points above the United States average on the SAT. Milestones. Big increase. Kind of, I think it's fair to say, seeing that go back to pre-pandemic levels and making progress.
Yeah, we're back to pre-pandemic levels, across the board. Graduation rate, which we typically get our finalized graduation rate about October of each year.
Right.
So we're talking about last year's rate, back over 90%. SAT and ACT scores continue to trend very well. And, milestones, we're back to pre-pandemic levels. It's hard to really anticipate from year to year what you're going to see because there are changes to the test and other factors. But I have been pretty pleased with where we are overall. Our teachers and our students do a great job. They work really hard. And I tell people all the time, yes, tests are important.
Right.
They are. But they're just one indicator of how well things are going.
And that's how my child's doing in that classroom.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. It's just one indicator. So, we understand that's important, but we also understand that what's really important is what goes on in that classroom every day and making things click for students and opportunities for students. And we feel like we're being as innovative as we can be, and we're pushing the needle, and we're going to continue to do that.
Another point, take back look over this last year. It's really been a very intentional part of what the school system has done, really over a generation, particularly over the last 5 years. Real focus on security, though, at our schools. Particularly, I think, where we were sitting this time last year, the entire nation was shocked at what happened in Uvalde, Texas. Our school system has a really good partnership with our community partners, with Coweta Sheriff's Office, Noonan Police Department. We really doubled down on working with them to review everything, including Homeland Security.
Absolutely. Brought GMA in, past August, I believe, and had them do an assessment of all of our schools. We're still in the process of implementing the suggestions that GMA gave to us. But we have great partnerships locally with Noonan Police, with Coweta County Sheriff's Office, and those state partnerships you mentioned with GEMA, Homeland Security. We are like many others. We're very diligent when it comes to safety. We don't take things for granted. We've got a good safety plan. We do safety drills, and you know, it's something that we really work hard to improve at each and every day. I can't say enough about the forward thinking of Dr. Steve Barker, who's my predecessor, and the Board of Education right after the Parkland school shooting. Right. They decided that we were going to have an SRO in every school. That's one of the best things that they could have done. And fostering those partnerships that were built with those local and state agencies long before I became superintendent, something that's important to me, and it just serves to help to keep our students, you know, and our staff safer. You know, there are a lot of things I tell people all the time. The first thing I think about every morning, safety. Typically, the last thing I think about every night, safety. It's that important. It never leaves you, and you know, many times we're forced to react to circumstances that may be going on that are outside of school that may affect school. Things like weather, or things like, you know, people doing things in a community that maybe they shouldn't do. We're forced to react a lot of times, but when we can, we try to be as proactive as possible when it comes to student and staff safety, and we work really hard at it.
Well, it's one of those things, you know, I think we lose sight of the fact sometimes that we have 32 schools all across this community. Those schools are actually real havens for students, a bunch of different ages, for families, and it's a haven in more than one way, and that's one of them. It's just a safe place to be. Yeah. And we're dedicated to that.
And we work really hard at making it that way. Safe place to be, where students can feel good about going and being able to learn. You know, if you don't feel safe, you can't learn.
Right.
So that's why, I mean, it's so important to make sure that kids know that our schools are safe places for them to be, so that they can concentrate on learning. And our teachers.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, that's right.
Absolutely. You know, you can't be the best educator you can be if you don't feel safe about being in the facility you're in or at the school. So we work really, really, really hard at that.
One last thing, taking a look, really shifting toward the end of the year, personnel. And I'll talk about this in a couple ways, but one of them is just very personal for a moment. Had something we always do every year at the end of the school year, and that is have a retirement dinner. A lot of familiar faces in that crowd. There always is. It wasn't a exceptionally large crowd, but we're an exceptionally large school system, so we have a lot of teachers, bus drivers, and nurses, folks that we have worked with for years who have reached the end of that career and decided they're going to go on to new adventures. Always a great event, but you also see some faces in there like folks that become really important to the school system. Vince Bass. Yeah,
Vince. Vince, he did a great job for us for a long time. And I was going to say, this is probably the first year for me that a lot of the people that I work closest to retired.
Right.
Vince is one. Julie Rashin's another.
Shawanda
Jackson. So I don't know what that says about me. I guess it says I'm getting a little bit older. But when you look at all of the institutional knowledge sitting on that stage that night, and I'm not just talking about district level employees.
No,
I'm talking about teachers. I'm talking about bus drivers, custodians, school food service workers. It really hits you the mark that all of those individuals have made on this school system, our students in this community. And every year, we use the word bittersweet. Every year it is 100% bittersweet, because good people who have devoted their life to making things better for kids in the community, you're happy because they get to go and enjoy another season of life.
Right.
Boy, you're sad because they're good people who devoted their life to doing the right things for kids. And look, it's a big loss. You just don't replace people like Donnie Blackshear with 44 years, something like that. You just don't do it. Now you hope somebody else steps in, and hopefully somebody will, but it doesn't happen overnight.
And you also hope that a lot of those people, and you know what they have, a lot of those people working around them, they've had an impact on them.
Absolutely. And, and I tell the board all the time, one of the things that does keep me up at night, in addition to a variety of other things, but succession planning and making sure that the system can continue to meet its responsibilities to the community. And we've got to live up to those. And you've got to be strategic about succession planning in order to do that.
I'm going to take a few minutes and just rapid fire hit a couple of things looking ahead.
All right.
And some of those things we've already set up right now because we had some people, and y'all, this happens, more or less every year, but because we had some of those folks in system leadership positions retire, that means that people move up, change roles. So we've got Dr. Chase Puckett taking over Shawanda Jackson's old position. We have Dr. Jillian Andrew taking over Julie Ration. And that also means new principals.
Yes. Yeah, and that's the trickle-down effect. I
That's
think
right.
People forget. If you have district-level leaders who retire, oftentimes going to mean a principal opening.
Right.
And that's oftentimes going to mean an assistant principal opening. So there's this.
And in the classroom, all the way down.
That's right. It goes all the way down to the classroom level. So, and that's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It really is. But those guys, they're going to come in, Chase and Jillian, they're going to come in and do a good job. Dr. Andrews, she's going to be over assessment and accountability,
Absolutely.
which is a huge role for the school system.
Yes, it is.
And then Dr. Puckett, he's going to be gifted in instructional services. So we're excited about that. You also have Mike Harris, who's the new technology director. So we've got him, and then several new principals. Herb Betts at Madras.
That's right. Lorraine Johnson leaving, that's a loss.
That's a huge loss.
That's a lot of institutional knowledge.
Yeah, Lorraine was principal over there for 16 years, and Madras has her fingerprints, of course, all over it. Amy Westbrook's going to be at Lee Middle School.
Yep.
Dr. Jamal Kemp is moving from Lee to Noonan High. Excited for
Going
him
back
about
home,
that move.
Noonan High School grad.
Going back home, a Noonan High School graduate. So a lot of change, and we work really hard to make sure that when we put a principal in a place or a district leader, that it's the right fit. And you look at someone, Jacqueline Stevens.
That's
going
right.
To from Northgate to Brooks. She's got a ton of elementary experience. And we're excited about her being there. So yeah, just a lot of change, but change isn't bad. Change is uncomfortable.
Change is uncomfortable.
Even for me, it's uncomfortable, especially when there's a lot of it. But good change. These are all good people who are going to do a good job.
I just want to mention, because we've mentioned almost everybody, David Dement at Smoky Road, Hap Hines at Central Educational Center.
Yeah, Hap going to be at Central Educational Center, which is a great spot for him, and David, Smoky Road. So just a lot of change.
A couple of other things going through budget right now. We won't ask you to pick apart budget. That's just always people don't understand that it is a big deal to go through literally all the processes of probably the biggest single entity in our community. It is. But I want to pick out a couple of things. One of the main things, teachers are seeing a pretty good bump passed on from the state and from the local community, and that's coming in several forms. One of those reasons for doing that is making sure that we retain and attract teachers. Yeah. One of the ways we're doing that is the Georgia's Best program. Big part of this.
Absolutely. You mentioned local pay raises. We have added additional local pay raises in addition to state pay raises for certified personnel. Remember, we did classified last year.
A year and a half ago. That's right.
And one of the things that I always think about is you want to keep good people. You do have to invest in them. Monetarily, that's one way, but also invest in their development. So one of the things that we've done. It's a pretty innovative partnership with the University of West Georgia where we're able to now pay for 150 of our teachers to be able to go back and get advanced degrees in areas that we feel are important to the school system.
Right.
Think literacy.
That's right.
Think leadership is one.
Special
education, math and science, which are critical need areas for us. And we also have an opportunity through that to be able to pay for certification for paraprofessionals that may want to become teachers. So you think about that. Of course, it's an investment. Yes, it's a monetary investment, but it's also a professional development investment in our teachers. In exchange for us paying for that degree, they stay with us 5 years because they're in the program for 2 years, and then 3 years after that, they have to stay with the system. So it's also a retention piece because, you know, we always say you want to recruit and retain the highest caliber people. So we're one of 2 school systems in the state of Georgia that have that opportunity. Excited about that, excited about what it means for those educators that may not be saddled with student loan debt as a result of going and getting an advanced degree. Excited about the potential economic benefits to the community because every dime they're not spending on a student loan, they can spend here in this community. And of course, excited about making sure that Coweta County is positioned for long-term success as a school system, and you got to have staff to do that in the face of a national teacher shortage. So
that's right.
That's an important piece there.
I want to point out that it's not just a competitiveness issue. It is that for the school system doing this, it's an innovation issue.
Sure.
I want to point out, Cobb County School Systems is doing this with the University of West Georgia and us. Just had Gwinnett County Schools announce that they're going to do a similar program with Georgia State University. That means us, one of 3 school systems in the state doing this.
Yeah, one of 3 school systems in the state. It's a great opportunity, and I've used that word a lot. It's a great opportunity for, you know, our teachers and staff, and it's a great opportunity for us as a system to make sure that that the system is stable for years to come. You know, I tell our principals, if we can do a few things, I think we'll be judged pretty kindly in the future. Come back from a pandemic better, check. Survive the tornado and come back from it better, check. Stabilize our workforce for the next generation, we're working on that, and I think we're going to do that. And then if you can ensure that your literacy rate, get everybody reading on grade level by the end of 3rd grade, if you can do that, man, you are doing great work.
And that's the last look ahead I want to take, as a matter of fact, because I see us, you know, everybody had to do this. You had to respond to those things going on, those big issues, including pandemics, including for us natural disasters and other things. Increasingly, what I see the school system doing is looking ahead, not just to the next year, but to the next 5 years and that next generation. Literacy is going to be a big focus this coming year. So is, in a sense, that holistic view strategic plan. Absolutely.
We're getting ready to develop our next strategic plan, which will take us from 24 until the year 2029. So it's a huge opportunity for us to make sure that the system has the things in place that it's going to need to have in place to live up to its responsibilities to the community. So, you know, and look, I have to be looking ahead. If I'm not looking ahead, nobody is. So we have to be thinking strategically. We have to be thinking from an innovative standpoint. I spend a lot of time with our staff members asking the question, what's next? What is the next thing that we need to be focused on so that we make sure that our kids have every competitive advantage as a workforce so that we can meet the needs of business and industry in our community, and those needs are changing, especially with some of the economic development projects that we've seen come online here recently. So we have to be nimble. We have to be strategic in our thought process. We have to be strategic in our actions to make sure that the Coweta County School System is well positioned to do what it needs to do for this community. And some of the things we've talked about are a result of some of those efforts and making sure that we can do those things. So I told our principals, I think, at our administrative retreat, I said, it's okay to look back, but it's never okay to go back. You know, it's good to look at the past, to learn from it and see how you need to move forward in the future. It's not okay to stay stuck in it or go back because the world's moving forward. Everything is continuing on, and we have to be right there at the forefront of that and be innovative to make sure that we're living up to our responsibilities. So that's a constant for us. Well, I tell you what, I think I'll end it there for my part because Dr. Horton, good year behind you. I think a good year ahead of you. Awesome. Thanks, Dean. And of course, the reverse interview is over. Dean took my show and interviewed me, and I guess that's a good thing. And we hope you enjoyed a little bit of a look back and a look ahead. And we're excited about the great things that are going to be going on here in our school system in the 23-24 school year and beyond. So with that, we'll be back. Thanks thanks to each of you for watching this episode of The Update. As you can tell, I am excited about what the future holds for our school system. To stay in tune with everything going on in our school system, I'll remind you to always subscribe to our YouTube page at CCS TV so that you can stay up to date on all the happenings in our school system. Till then, we'll see you next time.